Hi, I'm Susan DuBois, owner of Treenway Silks, and we're going to talk about Silk Fusion, what it is, how you make it, and why you would want to make it. Silk Fusion is absolutely beautiful. I get so excited whenever I talk about it and see the wonderful things that have been made. It's made with silk and it is sheen and it is luxurious and it's wonderful. You can think of it as paper or you can think of it as a felt because it's a non-woven fabric that you make yourself. Once you make your piece of Silk Fusion, then the possibilities are endless.
We all have applique patterns in our stash that are perfect to make with Silk Fusion. In this one, the background and coneflowers are made with Silk Fusion. The border is cotton fabric. The feathery edge, unique to Silk Fusion, is stitched with the binding. Silk Fusion is perfect for no-sew applique as the edges won't fray. When planning to layer Silk Fusion onto itself or onto wool felt, as you see here, make your Silk Fusion thinner so it's easier to hand stitch through the layers. Pieces of Silk Fusion can be cut into squares and shapes to create a mosaic. Beautiful, quiet pieces of Silk Fusion become stunning art when using this mosaic technique. It may look difficult, but Tamara has great instructions in her Silk Fusion book. The detailed mosaic technique can become a background, and the subjects, the dragonfly and flower, use larger pieces to stand out. The wings are made from Angelina fibers, giving them a transparent effect. Tamara has fabulous step-by-step photos breaking down the process of making a mosaic into easy steps. She makes it so simple to create your own original designs. You can plan your color placement with Silk Fusion. Here, Tamara creates an abstract landscape. The horizon line is emphasized with sari yarn stitched to give dimension. The quilting enhances the elements in the landscape. The technique was featured in Quilting Arts magazine February-March 2019. There are wonderful step-by-step how-to photos. Tamara also demonstrated this technique in Quilting Arts TV episode 2310. With everything you've seen so far, Silk Fusion has taken center stage. Karen's all-seeing eyes shows Silk Fusion as the background. The dimensional eyes are an upcycled silk scarf padded and heavily beaded. Silk Fusion pairs so beautifully with the silk fabric. This is one of my favorite pieces. Poppies was made from Tamara's very first pieces of Silk Fusion. I love that she used the feathery edges of the Silk Fusion to soften the poppies petals. From the beginning, I knew Tamara would be special. She wrote the fabulous Silk Fusion book that I've referred to a few times. Your piece of Silk Fusion can be so lovely that you may choose to frame it as wall art, no quilting needed. Tamara creates the beautiful marble-like veining by adding silk sari fibers when making her Silk Fusion. Each package of sari fibers is a unique mixture of color, and Tamara selects the colors she wants, highly contrasting or subtly different. You can take one piece or three or four, mount on a neutral background color, black always pops, and frame them. When making your Silk Fusion, you may decide to create a scene or an image. You control the color placement of the dyed silk to follow your vision. While making her Silk Fusion, Tamara enhanced the spirit by selecting specific color of sari fiber, black in this case, and laid it at the edges of the color changes. She also added some to create the feeling of wood grain. Silk Fusion can also be used for wearables, but I'm cautious, so I suggest limiting its use to pieces that can be spot cleaned. People ask if Silk Fusion can be dry cleaned. Every dry cleaner uses different chemicals, so ask your dry cleaner to test a sample of Silk Fusion, and if it works, go ahead. But check with them each time to see if they've changed their brand of chemicals. When making the Silk Fusion for this piece, Tamara ran out of the Josonia textile medium, so she used a different brand. While the alternate brand worked, she immediately noticed that it gave a more matte finish to the Silk Fusion. She and I both love the sheen and shine of silk, so our choice is to use a brand of textile medium such as Josonia that enhances the sheen. This is a fun purse. The fused glass button complements the Silk Fusion quite well. I love this little purse. Tama used metallic thread when quilting it. I made this piece under a tight deadline. Stamping is so far out of my comfort zone that I thought I had ruined my 2 pieces of Silk Fusion, but I had no time to make another piece, so I had to use it. Once I'd cut it up and arranged it, I actually liked the result quite well. So the moral of the story is, even if you don't like your piece of Silk Fusion, cut it into pieces and it may become one of your favorites. Tamara also made this purse. Everyone loves the upcycled leather belt, that's the strap. The majority of the Silk Fusion was made the usual way with silk roving, but the flower was made with a silk hanky. That's a hanky, not a handkerchief. The parallel silk fibers in roving make your Silk Fusion shiny. The random direction of the silk fibers in the hankies makes it matte. You can use these differences to contrast areas when making Silk Fusion. The instructions to make this little unlined purse are in Tamara's Silk Fusion book. Do you love traditional quilt blocks? You can pair Silk Fusion with cotton to make blocks. This works particularly well with Cathedral window quilt block as the Silk Fusion has body and doesn't fray. I made this simple journal for a class demo. Even if you have rudimentary sewing and limited quilting skills, you can make wonderful items with Silk Fusion. I've always loved ginkgo leaves. There was a ginkgo tree in the park in Keokuk, Iowa, my hometown. When using subjects from nature, it's easy to freehand the stitching as no 2 leaves are ever alike. Liz Kettle used nylon net for her screen material when making a single layer of Silk Fusion. She adhered her Silk Fusion to multi-purpose cloth by Rocklawn for strength and stability. When viewing it up close, you can see the different texture of the Silk Fusion. This piece of Silk Fusion was made in the regular way. After it was dry and heat set, I brushed a light layer of Josonia gloss varnish on it for durability. When doing this, you must lay the Silk Fusion flat while drying. For a few large applique pieces, such as you see here, I'll treat the textile medium like glue, brushing a little on the back. Then I'll heat set it. For durability, I'll stitch the applique piece with machine stitching or hand stitching to make certain it stays affixed through its long wear. I use a glue stick to adhere the Silk Fusion to the cardstock. This works better than liquid glue as there's minimal moisture to wrinkle the paper. This was a quick sample to experiment printing on Silk Fusion with my Inkjet printer.